Hello from George, South Africa, and welcome to episode 2 of season 2 right here on Our World Today on YouTube. That was a big mouthful. So here we go with this particular version, which we are looking forward to sharing with you about some incredibly controversial. And yes, we're going to be sticking our neck out today because it is extremely critical that we begin to put certain things into position and give our convictions about life. I have lived a life that has been so full and complete, but one of the things that I can thank God for from the word go, was being raised in a home where we had parents that believed in equality. You know, equal rights under the law. We were raised with that. Not the least of which is equal rights for all people, no matter who they are, because every person, has been raised and been made by God in His image. When I graduated from college, the theme of our class was in His image. It was very, very crucial and very vital to understand that all of mankind, no matter who they are, no matter what their background, no matter what their story is, no matter how they were made, no matter how they came forth, every person is created in the image of God. There are no people on planet Earth that we can describe as an animal. Ladies and gentlemen, no, we don't accept that. That's not part of our lives. And to tell people that they come from apes and evolutionary kind of a process, I'm sorry. God created man in His image. And that's the way it is, and that's the way we should be accepting it. Because God said it, we believe it, and that settles it. Every person created in the image of God. I didn't mean to get into this, but when I get certain trigger points, I've got to go off on it because I believe we need these convictions in this day and age that we're living in, when mankind is insisting on trying to find ways to denigrate mankind and to put us on a lower kind of a basis. No, thank you. God created us in His image. That's the bottom line. And we don't need to be playing around with that. And so when we start playing mankind off against one another according to racial lines, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Doesn't matter if somebody says, well, I'm a black man and my time has come. It doesn't matter if a white man says it's my time and my time has come. No, thank you. All mankind is created in the image of God. Now, there's a gentleman here in South Africa, got a lot of time for this guy, because he's probably got the toughest job on planet Earth. He's the Minister of Finance here in South Africa. His name is Tito Mboweni. I admired him all along the way, and I still admire him. From top to bottom, I admire the man because he's got a tough job, because he's the Minister of Finance in South Africa. And because he's the Minister of Finance, there's certain things that he has to do which are very, very, very painful. But he added to his own grief recently because he played the race card. And in playing the race card, he's playing to the detriment of South Africa. And because we should be finding each other, and I'm going to identify personally to those people that are striving to bring everybody together. But when we start bringing up, the race cards, it's not the right thing to do in our modern climate, and I'm saying that loud and clear. I don't believe in it. We should be trying to find ways to bridge the gaps between one another, whether it's on an economic basis, whether it's on a business basis, whether it's on a racial basis. We've got to find ways to bring mankind together. But Tito played the race card in an article that was written by a gentleman that writes for the Institute of Race Relations. And they're watching things very carefully when it comes to racial connotations. And I must say that Tito has always tried to find a way to bring people together in times gone by, and for that I honor him. But Marius Ruet wrote an article for the Daily Friend, which is a publication of the Institute of Race Relations. And he said these words: "It is not the fault of white South Africans that government spending has reached unprecedented levels and has brought the country to a brink of a debt crisis. It is also not the fault of white South Africans that since 2009, the government has insisted on moving away from policies which saw economic growth and, contrary to much received wisdom, resulted in an increase in jobs." Mr. Mbowini had much to do with that. My comment, where there was economic growth. The fault for growth-destroying policies can only be laid at the door of the prevalent and prominent political party in South Africa called the African National Congress. In the past decade, the government has embarked on a number of policies which have made the odds of many South Africans securing a life lived in comfort and dignity much lower. It is also the fault of the African National Congress, rather than rights, that education for many black children remains abysmal. Nearly a generation after the end of apartheid. It is undoubtable that South Africa is a better place than it was in 1994. It is a better place, however, than it was in 2009. That is a harder question to answer, and the answer, according to Mr. Ruet, is probably no. And this is only because of the policies the governing party has chosen to follow since that period of time. In case you don't understand that, that's a time when we were introduced to Mr. Jacob Zuma, and we've never recovered from his time as being president of South Africa. As a matter of fact, he still hasn't been pulled into a court to pay for the amount of damage that was caused to the tune of 4 trillion rand. And he's still bucking the system, even today. How that happens is a mystery of the politics of South Africa. However, what he says is the government seems hell-bent on continuing on a path of continued decline. The insistence on implementing expropriation without compensation will doom South Africa to economic regression for another 30 years. Just over half of South Africans identified our unemployment crisis as the most serious issue facing the country today, followed by 22% who said crime and 18% who believed corruption was the most serious dilemma facing South Africa today. In just over a week and a half from now, leaders of this region and leaders from around South Africa are converging on our city of George to speak into Project South Africa so we can address the dilemmas of corruption, of endemic corruption, pandemic corruption, and deal with the whole dilemma of a 45% unemployment rate in our region. And so we're coming to have roundtable discussions with prominent Christian leaders from all over South Africa. And if the government is not going to come forward and be forthcoming about the dilemma that we're facing in South Africa, then Christians and people of faith from all over this region are going to say, we have the answer. And we're going to put forward an economic basis to be able to change the economic climate of our land. Mr. Tito Mboweni, you better take heed as Minister of Finance, because there's some very positive macroeconomic solutions that we will be coming up with, and we will not leave until we do come up with it. Pray for us, folks. All right, point number one. Let's get over our racial biases. Let's find a way to come together under the love of God. Point number two. An advisor of former President Bill Clinton has spoken out. Her name is Naomi Wolf, and she has given a warning, reported by Jack Phillips on the 23rd of February, that the United States of America is becoming a totalitarian state because of the lockdown. She aided President Clinton during his second re-election bid. She said that the nation is moving rapidly into a coup d'etat situation, a police state, as a result of lockdowns. Are you listening to me, my dear friends in the United States of America? She used her Twitter account to warn about governor's lockdown orders all over America, especially in blue states. She advised a blue president, President Clinton, and she said, Mr. Biden is leading the nation to a pandemic lockdown situation. The state, she said, has crushed business, kept us from gathering in free assembly to worship as the First Amendment of the United States provides for, is invading our bodies, claims to have a control over what we say about our bodies and what our sexual appetites are all about. Ladies and gentlemen, where are we going to? When are we going to stand up? And she said this is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, restricting movement, finding us in New York State. The violations go on. And she further explained that authoritarianism is being implemented under the guise of safety and security. We're at something I never thought I would see in my lifetime. She said it's step 10 of 10. And that is the suspension of the rule of law. And that is when you start to be a police state. And she said, we're here. There is no way we can avoid it. She said, lockdowns have never been done in society. And really, we are turning ourselves into a totalitarian state in front of everybody's eyes. When are we going to wake up, my fellow Americans? And you know what? Can I tell you? I understand this completely. Because whatever America does, South Africa follows quite specifically and quite quickly. Third point. Robert Good is a U.S. representative for Virginia's 5th Congressional District. And he talks about standing up to the Intolerant Equality Act. Folks, we're not talking about right-wing conspiracy freakos. This is a United States representative in the House of Representatives. And he said big tech, Hollywood elites, gain unprecedented control over speech, over culture, and our total way of life. And he said, we have just passed H.R. 5, ironically called the Equality Act. And he said, in it, there are subjective ideas rather than objective ideas. There is unscientific quotations coming forth about gender and political points that deal with sexual orientation. He said, a biological boy or man identifies himself as a girl or a woman, and they would be considered just as female under the Equality Act, which opens the door to allow biological men to compete with girls and women in sports and use female restaurants in our country. Not restaurants, restrooms, I should say. Even worse. He said the legislation seeks to continue our nation on a leftward bias, and anyone who expresses a belief on a moderate basis affirming the traditional values that have served our nation for over 200 years will find for them that there is no room at the inn, because they believe in the totality of gender equality. So if a child comes up and says, who is a biological girl, and says, I'm a boy, all they got to do is ask for kind of like a sex change. And it seems like we're heading in a direction that says even small children can do this. Where is our nation going? We're moving into a time where we are saying that we're smarter than God, and God is going to say, and I'm going to talk about it this coming Sunday, we're heading towards a time where the wrath of God is being voted upon to become a reality in the United States of America, and it's happening all over the world. Mr. Robert Good said this. He said the Obama administration sought to close down the Little Sisters of the Poor, the Catholic nuns who care for the dying, simply because it would not pay for the contraception of their employees, because they don't believe in providing free contraception to try to improve or to try to impress, an immoral lifestyle upon the employees. All you got to do is provide contraception, and anybody can go out there and give expression to their sexual appetites no matter what they are. The Equality Act would provide authority and power to accomplish similar objectives on a national scale. What's going to happen is that people who have conservative viewpoints are going to be found that they have no place in the United States. They're going to be seen as being a threat to the state if we come up with all of this. All right, a friend of mine said these words, sent me an article, and it said this: Planned Parenthood released latest annual report. Now, my friend is likening the abortion industry to Goliath. So listen to what he says. The abortion Goliath self-reported committing, and Goliath is Planned Parenthood, self-reported committing 354,871 abortions last year. That's 9,199 more babies than were killed in the previous year. Meanwhile, their adoption referrals plummeted by over 37% to just 2,667 babies. That means for every one adoption, referral, Planned Parenthood commits 133 abortions. 1/3 of the pregnancy tests that Planned Parenthood gives, positive or not, ends up in an abortion. And some call this a conspiracy. I say these are the facts. I don't support Planned Parenthood. I support the birth of every living child. I am pro-life, proudly so. I'm not changing, not moving back on that. I'm looking at the 30% of the children that we deal with in our own organization, Life Community Services. Go and take a look at it. lifecommunity.co.za, and you'll see over 30% of the kids we work with are either child-run or child-headed families. We have babies that are born. We have children that are orphans, over 30% of them. We care for them on a day-by-day basis. We provide 1,100 meals. When I finish giving this broadcast, I'm going back to take care of 1,100 kids, 30% plus, that are either child-headed or child-run families. And we wonder why we come out with a statement that Bob Pierce, the founder of World Vision, says, "Touch my heart, Lord, with the things that touch the heart of God." That's our children. There's too many orphans. They're needing parental care. They're needing people like Titch and Joan Smith, who run Live Village in KwaZulu-Natal. We need our own village where we can take care of our orphan children through no fault of their own. We need them. And yet the abortion industry goes on and on and on ad nauseum, aided and abetted by Planned Parenthood. We need parents for these kids. We need mentors for these children. Each and every one of them are special. We need what my friend Chris April here in South Africa claimed so many years ago. We need to understand that children are the crowning point of God's creation. Each one of them are. And we need moms and dads to come forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to finish off this second episode of season 2 by reading to you a story. It's a true story. It was written by Jake Godon. On the 25th of February, Reichardt's road to recovery, Doherty Sr. returns to full strength, and he earns a college scholarship. You know, we need the good news these days. We need the positive input. And in Colorado Springs, it's a story that has been followed by News 5 Sports for the past 2 years. Doherty Schaefer Reichardt should now be playing his senior season of high school basketball for the Spartans. I say this because Colorado Springs I've never been to, but my dearly beloved cousin is a man of God that lives in the city of Colorado Springs. And I know he's a man of God because he loves kids and he reaches out to kids. I really, really, really appreciate my cousin and his wife deeply for the work that they do in the city of Colorado Springs. But he's playing, Schaefer Reichardt is playing his high school basketball season for the Spartans of that town. And back in 2019, Reichardt was clinging to his young life. He was suffering from toxic shock syndrome. It causes the release of toxins into the body. That syndrome had attacked his kidneys, his heart, and his lungs. All of this brought on by a combination of influenza A and strep throat. Later that year, Schaefer returned home from Children's Hospital in Aurora, Colorado, with one goal in mind: to return to the basketball court. Back then, the goal was just to be able to play again, explained the senior guard, who leads Doherty in points every single game. I did not think I would be in this situation. I am happy that I was able to get back on the court. Back during the course of this season, he is now playing at a very high level. Guess what? He was offered and then committed to play basketball at Colorado Christian University, which is not a Division I, but just under that, a Division II school. And he's now fulfilling in the dream that he's never given up on. And then he said these words, and I think it's a good word for all of us. Setbacks are a part of life. Failure is a part of life. If you do not continue in what you are trying to do after that, what is the point? Because that is what makes it worth it in the end. And when you do have success in it, it makes it so much more fun. It's a story of resilience that comes full circle, but the ending has still yet to be written. And it finishes off with this statement: being out here with my teammates and coaches, that is the cherry on top for me. Like the more games I can play, just keep the season going. That is the cherry. Ladies and gentlemen, I finish off this program with this statement: don't give up. Press in. Pursue. Pervade the culture of your life. Don't sit back and do nothing. Resilience, you need it. The world needs you. The world needs you to press in. There's enough issues. We've talked about it during the course of this day. There's enough issues in life that you need to wake up, follow after your dream, go after those things that are going to make a difference. Volunteer to make a difference in your community. Cause the light of God to spring up. Reichardt did it, and now he's getting a full scholarship to go and pursue his dream of playing basketball. You never know what heights you're capable of. But get a hold of those people that have a mind like you do, following the mind of Jesus. And go after the things of God with all that is within you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to be with you. God be with you. And may the Lord pervade your dreams. When we come back, we've got another beautiful story to tell on Saturday. When we come back with Our World Today, and this coming Sunday on You in the End Times, we're going to be talking about how the wrath of God and the love of God are on exhibit in the world that we're living in today. God be with you. Bye for now.